Welcome back to another episode of Motogp Mac, and today we're going to talk about the update that KTM brought to the Valencia test last week. Now, Brad Binder was flying all weekend on the new frame, and each of the new riders except for Augusto Fernandez had one old frame, one new frame to try during this test. And here is Pol Espargaro's bike with the old frame in it. And what you will see here is just where the main bolt is, or the main pivot point bolt is, just below the P on the fairing. You will also see just above it there is another little bolt there. However, on the new frame, it does seem that that section has changed completely. There is a welded piece on, but it looks to me that that bolt is actually shifted up a little bit higher than what it was. So what this will do, in my view, is change the weight distribution of the rear end of the bike. And also for the chassis, it is, in my view, with that little piece over it, it is strengthening it. Now, the other question that I do have is, you remember there was a bolt above that main bolt. Where is that bolt now? Or how have they rearranged the engine? But I just thought it was really interesting to see how they're exactly working on changing the weight distribution of the bike. Now, Brad was one of the ones that was trying most of the new aerodynamic devices or updates from the old bike to the new bike. And there's a couple of things that you will see here. Firstly, you will see the front wings are updated slightly. Then just behind the front wings where the front cowling ends, you will see now that those are smooth lines rather than the jagged lines like before. And the last thing that you will see is that the side pod and the belly pan, they're slightly different. Obviously the belly pan, they're trying the new Aprilia type belly pan, and there's just a slight update into how the side pod goes into that. But overall, I think the KTM, when it rolls out in Sepang, will be very different to this. I think this is just the starting point, just to get a data point for it. The other thing that I noticed, and you see in this picture, the fairing looks quite glossy, which is normal in black carbon and sunshine. But when I started looking a little bit closer, what I started to notice, and you'll see it here, just over the P, there's like a honeycomb section or honeycomb tape over the squared section. And I thought, is this just extra reinforcements or an extra bit of carbon? But it's actually not, because you can see just above it there's plain bits. And what it looks like to me is a little bit like the golf ball syndrome. So places where there's high air, and to stabilize the air going past it, you would use the honeycomb effect, because maybe it's on a slight curve or whatever, like a golf ball. And I found this fascinating, and I looked at the other riders and other high airflow areas, and it is actually there as well. So it's on the front nose cone, it's on the side pads, and I just find it really interesting that KTM are going to be looking towards this sort of airflow. And if it is, you can maybe see that the Formula 1 aerodynamicists are starting to look how to stabilize the air, etc. So I find it a really interesting concept. I do believe, with KTM next year, they do seem to be fairly happy with the bike. Jack seems to be acclimatizing to it well. Pol Espargaro is back in love with racing. Brad Binder didn't do too bad at the weekend, or he didn't do too bad during the test. And for me, Augusto Fernandez, 0.3 of a second off his vastly more experienced in MotoGP cousin. So I definitely think it's going to be an interesting thing. But there are slight aerodynamic updates, but I thought these were really interesting, and stuff has given me stuff to really think about. If they're going to do a paint job now with these little honeycomb spread all over it, how is that going to work? So it's really interesting. But I would definitely love to know your thoughts, what you think of KTM's test, and what you think KTM are going to do next year. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video.